In Ohio, there's a town called Delivered famous for two things: its rivulets and the fact humans, vampires, and zombies coexist in peace. Vampires are at the top of the social order while zombies are second-class citizens. And humans are somewhere in the middle. On a Friday night, Tage and Lorelai are running away from a horde of vampires as a huge explosion goes off behind them. Another human is caught and immediately eaten while the teens have to dodge an incoming police car in flames. This forces them to hide in a house nearby. Unfortunately, this place is packed with zombies. And at that moment, the vampires start breaking in by destroying doors and windows. A vampire grabs Lorelai through the door and Tage has to quickly take her away while a big fight ensues in the living room with dozens of monsters attacking each other. It doesn't stop until another police car crashes into the house, making a hole in the wall that reveals an alien spaceship hovering above town. This whole mess starts at school the day before. Tage's telling his best friend that he'll finally get to sleep with a popular girl, Lorelai. But the friend immediately points out she's only using him to stash her Mary Jane. Tage refuses to believe it, but when they meet her later date, Tage fails to get Lorelai his attention. Meanwhile, Petra is trying to flirt Milan, a popular vampire. They're chatting about the upcoming vamp party when they're suddenly interrupted by Ned, who tries to access his locker behind them. Milan snarls at Ned and pushes him away so a second vampire can hit him to the ground. Tage sees all this from afar but walks away instead of helping. Afterward, Ned goes to see a vampire teacher, Keller, who spends his time in the teacher's lounge looking at dating sites. Ned wants to know why his essay got an F, and after a very long rant, Keller admits the essay was good but he gave it an F because he could. Later during lunch, Petra sits with her friends who warn her about Merlin's bad reputation. Petra refuses to believe it, but at that moment they see him pushing and insulting Ned again when the baseball team teases Chaz for having a loser like Ned as his brother, while a zombie girl helps Ned pick up his filled food. Later during baseball practice, Tage is disappointed to find Rick, the man who fired his mom from the ribs factory. He always makes fun of Tage for it, and today he does it again, enjoying how much it annoys him. When practice finally begins, Rick and the coach notice Tage has great pitching skills, but he fails when he's under pressure. Chess steps up to the plate while insulting Tage and showing off for Lorelai at the same time, which makes Tage extra nervous. These nerves cause Tage to throw the ball straight at Chaz's face, knocking him down. While the coach and Rick rush to help a screaming Shay, Lorelai is impressed by Tage. In the evening at the vamp party, Petra and Milan are getting frisky in a trailer. But Petra suddenly stops Milan when he tries to bite her neck. She felt they were here only to get naughty, but Milan reveals that he's already been with Lorelai, and what he wants with Petra is more special. Feeling flattered, Petra accepts to do it all. Meanwhile, at Net's house, his father, Chess Sr., scolds Chance for getting injured, saying he's useless if he can't play. Ned tries to leave the table, but he got picked on for disliking rivulets, even though Ned is actually allergic to meat and those rivulets are full of unnecessary chemicals like TXB. An argument ensues and Ned flees to his room, but his parents follow him and learn Ned has dreams for the future. They don't think Ned is destined to succeed and advise him to settle for a less ambitious life, which upsets Ned so much that he leaves the house. At Drake's home, he tries to get frisky with Lorelai, who is too busy smoking a blunt she had stashed under Tage's bed. Refusing to give up, Dad tells Lorelai he's in love with her, but Lorelai finds that amusing and excuses to leave through the window. At that moment, Tage's parents come in and find the blunt on the bed, thinking it belongs to Tage. They don't believe him when he says it isn't his, but they still are very supportive. They also try to give him a talk about a huge body change he'll go through soon, but Tage thinks they're talking about something naughty and bids them good night. Later that night, Ned goes to watch the zombies in their humble neighborhood. He is approached by the zombie girl from lunch and answers some questions about zombie life because he's amazed at how everyone gets along here. When a twat drives by and throws something at the girl, she can't even feel it, and Ned gets jealous the zombie's unfeeling nature. So he convinces the girl to bite his foot in order to get infected. Then he joins a family during dinner and has his first bite of canned brains. Meanwhile, Petra is in her room feeling frustrated because Milan won't answer her texts. The bite mark on her shoulder is getting serious, and when she looks in the mirror, she discovers she doesn't have a reflection anymore. Starting to feel hungry, she goes to a supermarket to buy blood products, and when a friend sees her, Petra hides everything from her and runs away. And shame. Then she consumes the blood where nobody can see her. Tage is also out of the house practicing baseball. At that moment, all three teams notice a bright light coming from the sky. and they look up to discover a huge alien spaceship hovering above town. Soon pictures of the ship were appearing all over the news, but nobody manages to see an actual alien. After a couple of days, Rick gathers the human community at the high school gymnasium. And when Chat Sr. notices the vampires aren't there, he suspects they've already made alien contact. Meanwhile, Keller gathers the vampires at the blood bank, saying that humans may have already made contact with the aliens and are conspiring together to eliminate the vampires. Petra is there too and tries to get Merlin's attention, but he ignores her. Chest Sr. and Keller give their respective crowds big speeches about defending their people until both groups agree to launch preemptive strikes on each other. In the meantime, in the zombie neighborhood, the zombies gathered because the brain rations haven't come today. Ned explains that the town dwellers didn't send the rations because they're too busy dealing with the aliens and they don't actually care about zombies anyway. With a calmer yet still effective speech, Ned rallies the zombies to get back at the other two groups and leads the group out of town. That night at the town square, the three groups meet and an incredibly violent and bloody battle ensues. The entire town begins killing each other with any object they can put their hands on, not caring if they know anyone in the enemy team. Dad goes to his car, and when he finds Lorelai there, he tries to scold her for being careless, but as soon as she asks him to get frisky together, Dag drives away to do it at home. Meanwhile, Petra and Milan demanding an explanation. When she gets pushy, Milan pushes her against a wall and admits that he only seduced her to quench his thirst. Furious, Petra tries to attack him, but Milan is faster and tosses her into a car before leaves. And at Dad's house, he watches through the window how the neighborhood is descending into chaos and fires are starting everywhere. Lorelai reminds him what they came here for, but when the teens are about to score, a vampire dragging a human breaks through the door and makes a bloody mess right there on the floor. Dag and Lorelai escape through the window, and when they land on the ground, an explosion goes off nearby and some vampires jump on them. Luckily, Chaz Sr. comes to their rescue armed with wooden stakes. He stabs the vampire that attacked Lorelai, then proceeds to fight the other vampires with amazing skill. Finally, he kills the remaining vampires with such strong hits that he creates a shower of blood. Then he proceeds to tell the teams about all the training he went through in preparation for a day like this, but suddenly he's surrounded by a bunch of zombies who slowly eat him while he's still alive to feel it. At first, the teens can help watching in horror, but at that moment they are found by a horde of vampires, so they have to run away, bringing the story back to the beginning. Chest Sr. dies but quickly comes back a zombie too. Near the road, a furious Petra comes out of the forest and sees Lorelai running with Dag, so she decides to join the vampires that chase them. After dodging the police car on fire, Dag and Lorelai get inside the nearest house, where they find a cute little dog but also Ned with a group of zombies. At that moment, the vampires start breaking in and chaos ensues, with the monsters killing each other without mercy. Dag and Lorelai try to go upstairs, but Petra's desperate for a victim and jumps on Lorelai to bite her neck. At first, Ad can only watch, but as after a few seconds he pushes Petra off the stairs, also falling himself in the process. When he lands on the ground, Dag manages to find a sharp wooden object that he uses as a stake against another vampire, then tries to stab Petra too, but Ned tosses him away. Dad gets attacked by yet another vampire, so he grabs a wooden fish ornament to kill him. Meanwhile, a vampire pushes Ned to the ground, but Ned bites his thumb off and spits it into the vampire's mouth. This causes the vampire to stumble back, knocking Petra down just as a police car crashes through the house and runs him over. Now the only ones left in the house are Dag, Petra, and Ned. Before they can attack each other, they notice a bright light nearby and come outside to find the alien spaceship emitting a smoke-like substance that covers the town. Out of this smoke comes a bunch of aliens, destroying anything that gets in their way and using their tentacles to stab people. After a moment of staring and shock, Dag starts knocking on a trapdoor asking for his piano teacher, Mrs. Miller. She is indeed there with her son Stuart, who begins asking a bunch of very ridiculous questions to confirm Dag's identity. Once Stuart assures the teens are good guys, he opens the door and let them all in. Although he's worried about having a vampire and a zombie in his bunker, Dag promises it's fine and goes to shut the trapdoor, only to suddenly hear a scream. By the time he comes back, he's appalled to discover Petra and Ned are eating Stuart, Mrs. Miller. Dad gets ready to fight, but Patrick convinces him to stick with them since it's the only way they can survive. Hours pass and they tried chat for a while until Patrick questions Dag's feelings for Lorelai, saying he hesitated to save her. Dag denies this, but Petra points out that if he really cared about someone, he would just jump right in to save them. At first, Ag keeps Ned busy by distracting him with a laser pointer, But as time passes, they realize that the longer Ned goes without eating brains, the more he regains his intellect. Learn once that Tage and Ned used to be friends, but Tage doesn't explain why they drifted apart. Then Tage starts to worry about his family and wants to go out to check on them. When Petra reminds him of the alien threat, Tage says that they can starve Ned long enough for him to come up with a plan to defeat the aliens. The next morning, the teens climb out of the basement only for Petra to immediately collapse under the sunlight. Tage quicker removes his clothes to cover her, saving her just in time. At that moment, the aliens show up, so the trio agrees to split up and meet back at the school. When Tage tries to run away, he accidentally stumbles into a clothesline and falls to the ground as an alien approaches him from behind. Moments later, Petra and Ned make it to the school. Tage arrives shortly after, still with no clothes on, and he tells Petra how the aliens ignored him on his way there. Ned theorizes that the aliens only detect the inorganic matter and close, so not wearing anything should allow anyone to sneak around the aliens without being noticed. Afterward, they go to the cafeteria to have something to eat, and that tells his friends he became a zombie on purpose. Dad gets very judgmental about Ned's choice, but Ned remembers how Tage thought he was cool back in middle school. Embarrassed and angry, Dad confesses that he admired Ned's hacking skills back then but didn't want to keep hanging out with a loser, causing Ned to leave the room. Tage leaves as well, and Petra goes looking for him only to find him sulking inside an empty boiler. They chat for a while and share their vulnerabilities, causing Petra to cry for always feeling inferior to Lorelai. Dad comes closer to comfort her. They start to kiss and move into getting frisky. However, Dad gets startled when Patrick kisses his neck, accusing her of trying to bite him. Petra is offended that he thinks she would ever do that and goes away. In a classroom, Petra is looking through the window and notices the aliens are moving closer as the boys join her. They agree they need to leave, so in order to be safe, all three of them take off their clothes. As they walk the streets with nothing on, they confirm Ned had been right and not a single alien comes after them. Suddenly it starts raining and the trio rushes to hide in Dag's house. Dag is disappointed to discover there's nobody in the house, then he shares some clothes with his friends. Suddenly Dag hears a noise from a TV and realizes he didn't check the basement, so the trio runs downstairs. At that moment the power goes out and an alien shows up, quickly capturing Ned with its technical. Dag immediately grabs Ned's hand and pulled them out of the alien's grasp, so the technical tries to stab Dag, but Ned jumps in and receives the attack instead. Unfortunately, Ned disintegrates at the same time Petra chops the alien's head off, finally killing it. Afterward, Dag looks at a picture of him and Ned as kids as he expresses all his guilt about how he never defended Ned against what's at school, yet Ned still sacrificed himself to save him. While Dag tells the story of a baseball game in which Ned never got to prove himself, suddenly Ned shows up in one piece, and the trio reunites with glee. Ned explains that the aliens teleport the people they stabbed with their tentacles. But since Patrick killed the one in the middle of the process, Ned ended up nearby. This means that all the citizens of Delivered aren't dead but hidden away somewhere. Ned has also figured out that the aliens are after the TXPN rivulets, showing the gross allergic reaction he had from the aliens' technical as proof. The next morning the trio goes to the rivulet factory while wearing organic cotton so they can't be seen by the aliens. Rick only lets them come inside after making Dag admit something embarrassing, and the trio explains the situation to him, saying he could be a hero. However, Rick refuses to help, saying that the crazy people from their town deserve to be abducted. An argument is about to start, but at that moment they hear screaming and the group runs to discover Ned is eating Rick's girlfriend. Furious, Rick kicks the trio out. Luckily, Dad comes up with a plan which begins with him getting the aliens' attention, getting stabbed on purpose of they're teleported to where the people of Dilfer are imprisoned. They suddenly show up in a superstore where they discover each species is separated by a force field. Milan catches Petra and immediately attempts to drink blood from her, but she hits him in the gut, his revenge. Ned manages to reunite with his father and brother because they're zombies now, and they apologize to him and they reconcile. Dag finally finds his parents alive in the human section and discovers Lorelai survived too, but she's become a vampire because of Petra's by it, and she's on the other side of the force field. Luckily, the field still allows them to communicate, so Dag and petrified Ned and encourage him to think of a way to bring down the force fields. Ned starts remembering the day he hacked the school computers and made them show a dirty gif of two dogs. This memory that makes him realize they need to throw a DOS attack to overload and short out the security system. To do so, they need every person in the room to hit all the force fields at the same time. People begin arguing because they think only certain species should die, so Dad comes up with a heartful speech to change their minds. However, it isn't until his dad starts chanting USA that everyone agrees to help. All the citizens charge of the force fields at the same time, quickly shorting the system mountain, destroying it. Then they run out of the building and rush to the ribs factory. But Rick meets them with bullets. Once again, Dag talks to Rick with a heartfelt speech and makes the crowd start chanting Rick's name. This appeals to Rick's ego, and he finally opens the gates to let them in. Unfortunately, the smoke also follows them, and soon there is a bunch of aliens coming along. Rick immediately gets the aliens' attention and guides them toward the vat of unprocessed rivulets. Then the huge aliens suddenly open up, revealing they're just big machines, and the actual aliens or little creatures traveling inside them. All the little aliens dive into the vat until the contents begin moving, and a bright light suddenly blinds everyone for a second. When the people open their eyes, they discover the little aliens have fused into a big glowing one. The alien proceeds to explain that they came for the TXP peacefully. But then the town went crazy on their own, so they locked the citizens up to protect them from each other. Then the alien proceeds to quote Billy Joel's song to scold everyone for their behavior. Petra insults the alien for being condescending and points out it was them who scared everyone in the first place, inspiring Rick to throw a wrench of the creature. Furious, the alien begins attacking the crowd, hitting people with a chance. As everyone runs away, Keller gets smashed into blood drops and Petra is knocked back, accidentally dislodging and ammonia hosts. The liquid starts to melt the giant alien, and Dad quickly gets people to grab more hoses and spray as much ammonia on the alien as possible. While they work, Milan grabs Petra and throws her into a storage room. Dag sees this and remembers Petra's words about hesitating, so he immediately jumps at Milan and starts a fight. Dag manages to throw a couple of punches, but Milan is too strong and quickly overpowers him. At that moment, the clouds move in the sky, revealing the full moon. The light touches Dag through the window, and suddenly his body starts changing into a more hairy shape. It turns out Dag is a werewolf, and that's the change his parents mentioned. With his new powers, Dag fights Milan again in a fair match. After exchanging a few hits, Milan comes after Dag with a knife, but Dag dodges just in time, and Milan ends up impaled on a wooden spike, instantly exploding. Meanwhile, the citizens use enough ammonia to reduce the alien into a small wrinkly creature. Ned tries to capture it, but the alien summons that spaceship to rescue it. Then the alien releases a subatomic fusion explosive to decimate the town. Finally, having the chance to prove his skills, Ned catches the ball-shaped bomb and tosses it to Dag, who throws it back to the alien spaceship, making it explode. A few days later, people are done rebuilding their town and students return to school. Dag's of popular key good now, and Lorelai tries to flirt with him, but he turns her down to go to Petra instead. The new couple leaves to get frisky under the bleachers, while Ned bonds with Chaz and the zombie girl. Thanks for watching my video.